Welcome to Overcoming ED Communication Mistakes. Oh, that's an unusual title. I get it. Sometimes that can bring up immediately shame and guilt. That's not the purpose of this particular talk that we're going to have today. Oh, it's so good to see so many of you here. Thank you so much for your participation. As you can see, spotlight is on me. Although this is being recorded for the benefit of others, you will not be recorded. It is just me. So have that reassurance. You're more than welcome to add yourself with your camera if you'd like. If not, and you just wanted to still have just your name or your picture, whatever it is, know this. Your confidentiality is extremely important to me. I understand the sensitive nature of this topic. Therefore, by all means, put things into the chat. Any questions that you have, my team will be reviewing all the questions. They'll be categorizing them for me. And then at the end of this presentation, I will be doing a Q&A. That will not be recorded so that you have the opportunity, if you'd like to come on screen with me or ask your question and we have a dialogue, I'll be more than happy to do that with you. That will not be recorded. In any event, here we are for this workshop. I am here as your host. My name is Vanessa Cardenas. I'm a betrayal recovery specialist. I've been doing this since 2017, and I am honored that you are here. The reason that I started working with ED particularly is that I had so many of my clients coming in and blaming ED for the breakdown in their relationship, hence causing betrayal, whether that was self-sabotage, that they just stopped being actively involved in their relationship and therefore somewhat forcing their partner out of the relationship because there was too much shame and guilt in what was happening to them, that they didn't communicate with their partner what was happening, and the partner felt a different way. I am so honored and privileged to be here to share this information with you. I am ridiculously excited to do so. Why? My mission is to make sure that relationships that need to stay intact, that they don't fall apart based on ED, that they don't fall apart based on self-sabotage, that they don't fall apart based on betrayal. So we are going to jump right in, but first I'd like to give you a little bit of background on me. As I mentioned, I'm a betrayal recovery specialist since 2017. Nobody studies betrayal unless they've gone through it, and I went through betrayal as well. In addition, I wanted to make sure that I am very well-rounded for my clients. A lot of them have come in and we get to the root cause of what's going on in their relationship, which is usually a breakdown in communication. They've learned, or over time have stopped talking, stopped communicating. And for men, it's the fact that their bodies are not working the way that they used to. And that causes a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. And I'm here to share with you 5 of the common mistakes that I see in my practice related to communicating ED with your partner. In addition, because I have my role, I'm also a moderator in a very large women's support group. So I tend to ask them questions. What do they want to know from their spouses, from their partners? What type of communication would they like to hear? How best to communicate things? So I'm not only coming to you from my own personal experience, but also from that of my clients, as well as from various support groups on the different social media platforms. So trying to be well-rounded. So as I mentioned, I went through betrayal. So we're talking about communication. My husband took me to Paris after betrayal. It was one of those reconnection trips. I had never been to Paris. and I was looking forward to the trip. Now, you have to understand a little bit of the dynamics between me and my husband. We have known each other for decades. We met in middle school, fell in love, had a falling out. Then 8 years later, we rekindled our relationship, and 9 weeks later, we were married. Yes, 9 weeks later, much to the horror of our families, but that's okay. And we went upon our lives, the regular struggles that every single couple can experience, money issues, moving issues, career issues, infertility issues. And we finally got our stuff together and we lived what I thought was happily ever after until I got 3 words. I've met someone. Yes, my whole world shattered and we went through the process of healing from betrayal. So this trip to Paris was an opportunity for us to rekindle our relationship. In addition, just so that you're aware, some background information is that my husband is not a PDA. He does not express himself with public displays of affection. So here we are in Paris, the most beautiful city on the planet for love. The Eiffel Tower, everything else, the beauty of it, the history of it, the art, everything else. Here we are. And I noticed, because I love to take photographs, that I would stop and take a photograph of Notre Dame, of the Eiffel Tower, of the artwork in the Louvre, whatever it was. I was always stopping and taking photographs. My husband, on the other hand, moves through things a little bit more quickly or at a different pace than I do. And I noticed that he started holding my hand. And I felt like I was a child, that I had to be pulled along to, move a little quicker, or I had to be held back because of my eagerness to get to something else so that I could get the perfect angle to take a photograph of. But I noticed that my husband was holding my hand. And again, as I mentioned, I felt like a child. I was like, kind of thing. Now, after the trip, we sat down kind of, how was the trip for you? This and that, blah, blah, blah. And I mentioned to him, I said, well, the fact that you treated me like a child kind of bothered me. And he looked at me like, what? What are you talking about? And I said, the fact that you held my hand everywhere so that you could guide me, so that I wouldn't go too fast or too slow or something like that. And he looked at me and he's like, Vanessa, I held your hand because we were in the most beautiful city on the planet. And it's the city of love. You keep saying that. So I held your hand to show you that I love you, that you're mine, that I don't want anybody taking you. Do you see how women and men see the exact same situation? Completely different. A breakdown in communication. Why? Because I had beliefs in my own head of what was going on, and he had beliefs in his own head of what he was doing. And in that moment of time, the unbelievable gesture that he did that I missed. Now, goes without saying, here I am, a betrayal recovery specialist, and I missed it. I missed the purpose of him holding my hand. Why? Because I had this limiting belief in my head that he never shows public display of affection. So I didn't see him holding my hand as affectionate. I saw it as controlling. Yes. Exactly. So here I am in front of you to go over some of the communication that's going on in your relationship. So the first mistake, especially related to ED, is avoiding the conversation. If you do not tell your partner what's going on, she is going to internalize it. You're both in bed, you're being intimate, as you always have been in the past, or if this is a new relationship for you. It's intimate, it's getting hot and heavy, things are going really well, and suddenly, okay? These things happen, they do, but you need to communicate with your partner that this does in fact happen, that you are taking steps towards resolving the issue or working towards the issue, or that there's other forms of intimacy that you can do. But you need to let your partner know. Why? Because she gets up in her head. Yes, she gets up in her head. She thinks it's something related to her, that you don't find her attractive, that something's going on, that there's something wrong with her. Meanwhile, you might be sitting there thinking something's wrong with you. And now you're both in the exact same situation where you both think something, because you're not communicating with each other. So how do you have that conversation? First and foremost, try not to have it right then and there. Meaning, if it's already starting to get hot and heavy and it, fizzles out, don't shift into the explanation of it right then and there. Give a couple of moments of pause, and then tell your partner, I need to have a chat with you. I need to talk to you. I need to let you know what's going on, because I don't want to have it's the not you, it's me conversation and have you misunderstand it. But that's what it is. But it's not that I'm breaking up with you. It's not that I don't find you attractive. It's none of that. I have something going on with me. Really important to know, a stat that I found incredible when I started studying this is that 20% of men in their 20s suffer from ED. 30% in their 30s. 40% in their 40s. And 50% in their 50s. Oh my goodness. And they're suffering in silence because they're not talking about it with their partners. And again, because I have the opportunity to work with women, I then subsequently have a different workshop for them that explains similar what I have shared with you thus far, saying you need to be empathetic. You need to be understanding of what your man is going through. A lot of his confidence, a lot of what he feels relates to how his body works. And if his body's not working properly, by his definition, he is up here in his head wondering what's going on. Why is this not functioning the way it is? So women, you need to be empathetic and understanding when he says it's not about you. I know that's really, really hard to hear, but if you can start to accept that it is not about you, you can work with your man to help him through this journey that he is going on. And right now he's going on it alone because he is not communicating, because he's fearful of your reaction. So when your man sits down with you to talk to you, you need to be open to it. So that's what I share with the women's group. But you are here, and I wanted to speak with you from your point of view and to help you, guide you through the process of talking to your spouse. So we covered avoiding the conversation. Don't do that. Absolutely have the conversation. As difficult as it is, you need to get the words out of your mouth. She needs to hear from you. And I know it's cliche, but she needs to hear from you. It is not about you. And men, the most important thing you can do to a woman, most important thing that you can do to a woman is look deeply in her eyes, put your hands on her shoulders and tell her everything is going to be okay. We will figure this out. Everything will be okay. She needs that reassurance, because once she accepts that it's not about her, you then have her on your side. She admires your willingness to share this with her. She sees your confidence in that you will do everything you possibly can to figure this out. I'm not saying that there's a cure. And again, from a cure standpoint, I am not in front of you to discuss cures. There are others that are more skilled in that respect. What I can suggest and what I suggest for my clients is that you absolutely see a urologist. That is your first line of defense, is to see a urologist, because ED is a side effect of a lot of different circumstances. And if you resolve those circumstances, you might resolve your ED. Again, we talked about statistically 20% of 20-year-olds, 30% of 30-year-olds, 40% of 40-year-olds. Okay? So again, I am not here advocating a cure. I'm advocating communication. So tip number 2 is placing blame or guilt. If you deflect what's happening with you onto someone else, you're not taking ownership of it. And when you take ownership of it, your partner sees your confidence. And not for nothing, Blake Lively said it best. And I'm going to butcher the quote, and I apologize for it, but she said something to the effect that your confidence, you wear it well. The most beautiful thing that you can wear is your confidence. Your woman needs to see your confidence. Tip number 3 is ignoring the emotional or the intimacy needs of your partner. Wait a second, what? Here we are talking about how to communicate ED in a very constructive, positive way, okay? And I know that this is about you. I get that. But we're talking about how to communicate with your partner so that you get her on board. So you don't want to ignore her emotional or her intimacy needs. And you need to come out of your shell, if you're in your shell, and have these conversations. And I know that they're challenging, but we want to get back to that intoxication that you had when you first fell in love. Yes, when you first fell in love, those butterflies in your stomach, everything else, you want that intoxication back. She wants it as well, because there's now a complete disconnect if you choose to turtle yourself and ignore the situation and ignore her intimacy or emotional needs. The reason that I bring this up, which is very important, and as I mentioned right at the top, is that one of the things that I like to do in working with clients is I want to preempt betrayal. I want to jump in front of it before it happens. And most women, when you poll most women cheat for intimacy. I'm not advocating it. I'm not saying it's right. Please don't misunderstand me. Betrayal is the most gut-wrenching thing anybody ever goes through. It is a different kind of trauma than any other trauma, and it can last for months, years, decades to get over. Because when the most important person in your life betrays you, yeah, that cuts like no other. With that being said, I want to preempt betrayal. How to do so? Fulfill your woman's emotional and intimacy needs. But that involves communication. Now, men, don't think I don't explain this to women either. They need to communicate what they need. They too are very guilty of not communicating correctly or not communicating at all. So I don't want you to think that this discussion that we're having is very one-sided. It is not. I'm having this conversation with you, and I'm having an equal conversation with women as well. The fourth mistake regarding ED communication is relying solely on medical solutions, meaning that you're looking all across the internet for all of these things that might help the situation, but you have not gone to a urologist. The urologist is your point of contact. Now, again, If you're somebody who believes in the holistic perspective, and that is your jam, that is what you do, and you've always done that, I'm not advocating anything to disregard what you already do. I strongly encourage you to speak with a urologist. They have the specialty related to ED. And again, there are a lot of extenuating circumstances, and every single human on this planet is unique. You are unique. And what works for someone else might not work for you. What's causing it for someone else might not be causing it for you. There are so many different avenues to go down, but the starting point is definitely a urologist to at least eliminate some of the factors that might be causing it. And you've heard this before. It could be your diet. It could be the medication that you're on. It could be an undue amount of stress that you suddenly find yourself under. It could be lifestyle changes. There are so many factors that go into ED. Please talk to a urologist. That's your first line of defense. But don't rely solely on one thing. You want to be well-rounded as well. You want to get as much information as you can, but be careful with the information that you are getting. As with everything, you do want to do some research. The fifth thing is avoid ED being the center point of your relationship. It is not. I know that it's incredibly important to you to resolve the issue. Of course it is. I completely understand that. It's your manhood. It's who you are. It's how you define yourself. I understand that. And the women that I work with, I encourage them to understand that as well, and to work with their husbands, their partners, to boost their confidence that it's not all about the ED. Your world does not revolve around ED. It's not supposed to. I know it does. I get it. I so understand it. Because again, your body's betraying you. Yes, it is. And again, by working with a urologist to start to eliminate some of the root causes will allow you the opportunity to really focus on what you need. And I advocate communication. Communication is key. Communicating with your doctor, letting them know what you're experiencing. Because again, 20% of men in their 20s have it. They might not be talking openly about it, but they have it. 30% in their 30s, 40% in their 40s, 50% in their 50s. You're not alone. You are not alone. And if you came in and found this presentation through Facebook, I am a member of the erectile dysfunction discussion group. It is 11,000 members strong. It is a very active group. You will find lots of resources within that group. In addition, you want to reach out to your urologist. You might not have one. Reach out to your regular primary care physician. Let them know what's going on. I can tell you this, your doctors have heard everything. They've heard it all. And there's no judgment on their part. None whatsoever. They are there to help you. And you have a lot of resources, and you want to reach out to those resources. But the person right next to you, your partner, can be your biggest advocate, your biggest cheerleader, your biggest supporter if you communicate with her and let her know what you are feeling, how you are feeling, and what she can do. The silence is deadly. It absolutely is. It can destroy a relationship overnight. We don't want to do that. Again, look into your partner's eyes. Let them know it is not about them. that it's going to be very difficult and very challenging for them to hear, because they have their limiting belief that says this must be about me. He must not find me attractive. What is it about me? They internalize it. Women do that. They do. And I am, again, working with women to avoid that situation as well. But again, both parties need to come together to have that understanding. They can't come together if there's no communication. So please do communicate with your partner as best as possible. If you need further details, if you need scripts on how to actually have those conversations, reach out to me. You can direct message me. I'll be more than happy to send you a couple of different resources that I have that I share with my clients in terms of best practices for communication. So I thank you so much for your time. I hope you found value within this. If you did, by all means, drop a comment within the various platform that you found this on. I do really appreciate it. If you have any kind of feedback to provide me, by all means, do so as well. I am a perpetual student, and I am always learning best practices to be able to share with everyone else. So thank you so much for your time. Again, my name is Vanessa Cardenas, Betrayal Recovery Specialist. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, everyone. We're going to turn off the recording so that I can be sure to answer the questions that have been rolling into the chat.